This is October the 25th, Friday 2024, and we are in BBIS first semester compulsory English class, where we have been reading the essay Rhymes with Fondue Free for the last 3 days. And I might have borrowed someone's pen. I guess it's not my pen. Is it someone's here? Okay. So, in my previous class, I was in section 2 of the essay, where I was reading paragraph 1, and I talked about concepts like flashback technique in writing. And I said that in this essay, there is an interplay between present and past. The present moment triggers a memory in her mind, and she goes back to past. So in section 1, opening paragraph, you saw that the receptionist could not pronounce her name correctly. So this issue, the experience of someone living in another culture and facing various difficulties, that's with what they say begins. And in section 2, if you see, she moves to her past, 1970s. Maybe she's moving to 40, 50 years back. In section 1, when she is in Canada, I'm not sure, but I guess she is in her 50s. Maybe, not sure. But in section 2, that interaction with the receptionist, the scene, opening scene, takes her back almost 50 years before, 40 years before. And she remembers the 1970s, and not only that, she begins by talking about this thing. I was 3 years old. She begins, do not yawn, early morning. I've just started my class and you are feeling sleepy. You are not here to sleep in my class, please. My classroom is not a restroom or drawing room or living room where you can just rest and sleep. You must come fresh in my class, physically, mentally, okay? If I yawn, you can put me out of class. But when you yawn, it's so contagious. I might yawn now, because yawning is psychologically highly contagious. You talk to somebody on video call, seven seas across. If they yawn from Australia, you will yawn here. If you don't believe, you try. Yawning is highly contagious. If you yawn, it makes other people yawn. Make sure you come to my class fresh. Okay. So then she talks about other characters. Like, for example, she says that she had Dara, who was older than her, and Dara, she describes Dara's appearance. And I told you, note down Dara under character, and I said, write a description under character. Because when you read a story and when you meet a character, note character's name, and under that, write the details about the character you find in the story. For example, her physical appearance. She has oblong face, she has blue eyes, she has blonde hair, right? Okay, now, what did Dara do? She made us children feel at home. Dara and the other kids. Now we know there were other kids. Under the section character, you note copy, write down other kids. You know that there are other kids. Me by my family nickname Sanu, little one. Now this is on right Sanu and then right Nepali word. This is called trans language, code switching using another language. Okay, now we move ahead. I also remember that yesterday I also introduced you to the new term kairos. And I said, when she says 1970s, then I told my story, how I was 3 years old in 1972. And I saw the crash of Skylab, right? So what is kairos? Political, cultural, historical circumstances, which the rhetor makes his or her speech. For example, if you were describing kairos of my class, you could talk about Ravi Lamichhane case, because this particular situation. If you describe the kairos of this classroom, 20 years later on in a piece of writing, you will say, when Divakar sir was teaching BBIS in 2024 October month, in Nepal, this political scene was going on. That's kairos. Kairos is what is political situation, what is cultural situation, what is social situation, etc. Okay. Then I also talked about implied rhetor, right? I said there are two types of rhetor, real rhetor and implied rhetor. Right now I won't explain implied rhetor to you. I'll explain later on. But I told you real. What is real rhetor? If you feel that the person telling you the story is exactly the same person who wrote the story, then that is called a real rhetor. Okay. Now, if you talk about implied rhetor, I have no here, I should tell right now. Implied rhetor is a figure that writers create in the story. For example, do you see when Manjushree Thapa wrote this essay around 2010? I guess she was in her 50s, right? But in the essay, she says, I was 3 years old. So this I in the story is 3 years old. So this I, who is just 3 years old, is implied. And what is she? She is a daughter. This implied rhetor is a daughter. Now, how do you know the implied rhetor? To understand implied rhetor, ask a question. What role is the narrator playing in the story? The role that the narrator plays in the story, that makes the implied rhetor. For example, in this story, the narrator is a daughter. She is a student. She is a friend. Okay, now move ahead to new paragraph from today. I'll quickly read and explain. I'm showing you, in this class, I'm showing you how we read. I'm demonstrating effective reading, close reading. Okay. I spend the days watching Romper Room, a children's program picking up language. Peanut butter were my first English words. And when I was not bothering my nanny, a wizened Nepali widow, I played with a deathly pale French-Canadian 3-year-old Cathy. Now, besides that, note under character. Note under character, you have a new character now, Cathy. Note under character, the wizened Nepali widow, Nanny. Under character, please note down, we meet another character, Nanny. Now in this paragraph, there is another remarkable thing. What is she telling? She says that when she was 3 years old, she watched a television series, Romper Room. What is that? American children's television series, 1953 to 1994, for preschoolers. Children 5 years of age or younger, included games, exercises, songs, storytelling and moral lessons, regularly accompanied by a background music. Etiquette was a focus. When I was 3 years old, like her, we did not have television in 1970s. The first time I saw a black and white television was 1983 or 2. So now ask me, Divakar sir, how did you learn to read and write? So my parents would sit on the bed, they would make me sit on the ground, and they'll give me the book Mahabharata, a very big book. And they'll open a story in Sanskrit and Hindi. And they will say, okay, try to pronounce the Sanskrit slokas. I'll pronounce Sanskrit slokas. My father would guide me how to pronounce Sanskrit. Then I'll read the Hindi story to my parents. Each evening, every evening, I will read one story to my parents. I did this for 4, 5, 6 years. And I finished the whole volumes reading this history to my parents. And now I know the story. That's how I know. This is called, why I'm telling this? This is called, this paragraph is example of literacy narrative. Note down. What is literacy narrative? A story where a writer tells how they learn to read, write, listen, speak. What is literacy narrative? Literacy narrative means a story in which writers tell how they came to read and write, how they learn to read and write. My point? I didn't tell this thing previously. Now I'm showing you. Now move ahead. Kathy. We did not have a language in common because Kathy spoke French. Please understand that in Canada, the second most spoken language is French. Particularly in Quebec state, French is the first language, right? Canadian 3-year-old Kathy, we did not have a language in common or much language at all. Our friendship took place in a solemn pantomime. Note this word. You want a Coke? Yes, look, my parents have a fridge full of it. What is pantomime? Conveying a story through expressive bodily or facial movement. If you watch Charlie Chaplin on YouTube, where you have no sound, that is pantomime. Have you seen Charlie Chaplin series on YouTube? Just watch this afternoon. Because in Charlie Chaplin series, there is no sound. He makes meaning by gesture. So pantomime is making your meaning through body language, through gesture. Why? Because she spoke maybe Nepali and Kathy spoke French. Look, we have a universal language, right? So this paragraph is remarkable for what? Literacy narrative. This paragraph 2 in section 2 is an example of what? Literacy narrative. Move ahead. Okay. By the time we returned to Nepal 2 years later, so she says I was 3, 2 years was 5, she was 5. She came to Nepal when she was 5. I was fluent in English. I have my niece in Australia, we talk over a video call. She is 2.5 now. And she speaks fluent English. I can't speak with her. She speaks like a native child. And I'm many times not able to catch her up. What he's saying. Then I say, repeat it. I don't know what did he say. She speaks slowly again. Then I catch. We learn English by the time we are 3 or 4 years old, right? Okay. Look, she's 5, and look what she writes. She's just 5, and look what she says. I was fluent in English, fluent enough to flirt with Tom, a 9-year-old, my first crush. So what do you see here? Another remarkable thing. In many places in this narrative, the writer will share her growth. The writer is sharing her growing experience. And among our growing experiences, we have sexual experiences as a children. But in our culture, our parents tell that talking about sex is dirty. So we avoid talking about that. We hide them, we suppress them. But I'm pretty sure everybody in this class, don't feel offended. You have had sexual experiences as early as 3, 4, 5 years old. I have. I told you, I used to play with a girl of my age and I had a kind of attraction. I was sexually assaulted by gay young boys when I was just 5, 6 years old. I was assaulted. I have had, why are you laughing? You are laughing because you are insulting me by your laugh. You are insulting your teacher by laughing at the teacher. Your teacher is honestly telling these things to make you understand. And you fool, you laugh at the teacher because you are demeaning the teacher. You have no manner. So I said, I was assaulted when I was barely 5 or 6. But I never wrote about this memory. If I now write my memoir, I might talk about this thing. So I was making a point. In this narrative, there are many instances of sexual misconduct, sexual assault that the writer has undergone. Below at one point, the writer uses the word neurosis, neurotic. And I had a suspicion that this issue of neurosis comes because, as she hints here, right? She might have been sexually assaulted many times. It's my guess. I'm not sure. We will have to interview the author. Move ahead. So at 5, she had her crush. At 3, I had my crush. Her name was Rekha. And his name is, what's his name? Tom. Look, it's interesting to see that as early as 3, 4 years age, we have this feeling of love for someone. Right? But my main memories of that period revolve around the benign muteness of a foreign child. Mark this. She is 5 years old. She is in another culture, Canada. So what does she do? She keeps mute. It's very remarkable because this essay is about the experience of growing in an unfamiliar culture, in a foreign culture. And one effect you see here, she says, I would always keep mum. Right? Foreign child, see, in an open-hearted land, being led around by Dara, the neighboring girl, drinking coke with Kathy. See, when you read this line, drinking coke, remark here, cultural influence. If she had grown up in Tanahu, her parental land, she would grow drinking doodh dahi moi, most probably yogurt. Because she grew in Canada, she grew up drinking coke. Many of you might have grown up drinking coke because you live in Kathmandu city. This is cultural influence. And when I finally got to school, going up to the teacher, it's more interesting now. Look here. She's 5, maybe 6 now. Going up to the teacher. Now she describes. Keep in mind, every time she introduces a character, she writes 2 or 3 sentences describing the character. So under the heading character, note a new character now. We have Kathy, we have Dara, we have kids, we have the wizened widow, the nanny. We have nanny. We met nanny, receptionist, rater, nanny, Kathy, Dara, and now we have the teacher. How does she look? A plump, pretty, white lady dressed in pink and nudging the back of her. Nudging is, you touch with your body parts knowingly, unknowingly, you happen to prod. The back of her chubby, shiny pantyhose. Note down, this is remarkable because this is a visual image. This is a very strong visual image. What is pantyhose? We know. Women have a long, what do you call, I don't know the exact word because I don't belong to this culture. What do you call, they have this leggings type thing. It comes up to here, right? It's women's thin nylon tights. Encased thighs. She remembers What she did when she was 6 years old? When she is 15. Till she turned and saw me looking up, lost. Because the teacher could not understand why a 6-year-old student would prod her thighs. And hound, I remember the powdery scent of her perfume as she knelt down to communicate with me. She again and again she used the word remember, remember, remember. And I told you, this is an example of memoir, right? So, I remember the powdery scent of her perfume as she knelt down to communicate with me. Section over. Now let's wrap up before we go to the next section. So in this section, which we started yesterday, how many paragraphs are there? 1, 2, 3. There are 3 paragraphs in this section 2, and section 2 takes place in Canada in 1970s, and section 2 tells a lot of things about her childhood. She introduces Kathy, she introduces Tara, she introduces her nanny, she introduces her teacher, she also tells about her first crush Tom. And she also shares 2 interesting details: how she happened to prod the teacher's thighs and how she used to remember the scent used by the teacher. Now, this thigh is a visual image, but the scent is, I'm not sure about the word, either olfactory or gustatory. Please check your dictionary before you can note down. An image that appeals to a smell, that is called either gustatory or olfactory. Gustatory, gustatory, olfactory, olfactory. Among these 2 words, one is about taste, one is about smell, but I'm not sure which one is what. You clarify. Okay, so let's have any questions about this section here? Take your pen. Take your pen. I'll give you 5-minute time. In 5 minutes, you will write as fast as possible. You won't stop before 5 minutes. If no idea comes, you keep scribbling. For 5 minutes, you will continuously write whatever I taught you in the last 20 minutes. The time starts now. In 5 minutes, please write whatever I taught you in the last 20 minutes. Write in paragraphs, not points. Write as fast as possible. Don't worry about grammar. Don't worry about spelling. Care about 3 things. Write too much. Write too fast. Only 2 rules. Write too much. Write too fast. Keep writing, keep writing. Try to write too much as your mind can help you. Please do not stop writing. The rule of this exercise, you won't stop writing. If no idea comes, write, no idea is coming to my mind. Please keep your pen moving. Okay, it's 5 minutes, you can stop now. It's 5 minutes. Let's move ahead. We will do this kind of thing regularly. We'll study a section, we'll pause, write, then move ahead, okay? Okay, now we are moving to next paragraph, next section. We finished discussing section 2 and you did a fun writing exercise. Now let's move to section 3. It was the early 1980s. So for your convenient understanding, see, section 1 sets the scene, section 2 goes back to past 1970s, section 3 1980s now. She is using 3 sections for 10 years each. 70s, 80s, 90s. It was early 1980s. Ronald Reagan was the president. This information is part of Kairos, as I told you earlier. This is the Kairos of the essay. Times. Ronald Reagan was the president of the United States. Marion Barry was a mayor at his city. I still remember, in 1984, it was 1984 I guess, Indira Gandhi was the president of India. I was in class 7 and when Ronald Reagan won the election of American president, all the newspapers said a dancer has become a president because Ronald Reagan, before he came to politics, he was a dancer. Still I remember. And there was a big news, big picture in Indian papers. So as he recalls, because this author and me are 1 year's difference. She was born in 68 and 69, so our experiences match. Okay, so she remembers Marion Barry was a mayor and his city, Washington DC, was known as the homicide capital of America. Another remarkable thing, note down in the setting. Section 2 has Canadian setting. Section 3 has American setting. Section 2 time is 1970. Section 3 time is 1980. Section 2 place is Canada. Section 3 place is America. Okay, we'll move ahead. Now, at one point she says that Washington was homicide capital of America. What is homicide? Homicide is indiscriminate killing of people. And I just used Google Gemini and asked her. I supplied this paragraph and I said, tell me why this is saying so. And Gemini says that in Washington DC in those days, the capital was very notorious for drug trade, right? And there was violence. So see, look, can you see this writer grew up in a city where there used to be homicide, culturally violent city. There were parts of town you did not go to. You would be killed if you went there. So insecure. Washington, look. But my family lived in a good part. Remember, look here. The word good is put within single inverted comma, right? This is called a technique mark out. We call this mark out. When you put inverted comma like this in a word, what does it mean? It means the word good does not mean good. It means something else. And if you read later, you will find that she actually meant to say it was not very good. When you use a word and you create the meaning of that word, special meaning, what do? You put very similar comma. If there was no comma here, good will be dictionary meaning good. But because there is a comma, it means another meaning. Now what is that meaning? Near Embassy Row in the northwest, proof that this was a good part of town. Look here, she puts a question mark. Why she putting? This is called a rhetorical question. This is not a question. She is saying it was not a good part of town. Proof that this was a good part of town? No. This is not a real question. This is a question that makes an assertion. What assertion? It was not a good part of town. Just one block away across Massachusetts Avenue at the Naval Observatory lived Vice President George Bush. If you remember, George Bush and his son also became president. Do you remember? The father George Bush became president around 1990s, I guess, and the son George Bush became president around 2005 or 4, I forgot. Before Clinton. Okay. We, however, inhabited our own little third world. Mark it. I told you this essay is about politics also. So here she uses the word third world. Look, America is first world. Washington is capital of America. So America is supposed to be even more developed in America. Washington is supposed to be most developed city in America, right? But she says the locality, our embassy was like a third world. And you will see later on what she means by this. Move ahead. In a creaky, look, Manjushri Thapa, in a very subtle way, criticizes Panchayat regime in Nepal. How? By showing that during Panchayat time, Nepalese government did not take good care of American embassy in America. How does it look here? How describe? See the embassy, a creaky, moldering building. What is creaky? Old-fashioned, decrepit. What is moldering? Slowly decaying, disintegrating because of neglect. Do you remember? 10 days before, Sumana Shrestha from Rasopa shared a news about German embassy of Nepal in Germany. And she said that there is a big building of Nepalese embassy which has been discarded, and Nepalese ambassadors and people are not taking a building. That building is very valuable. Now they are planning to sell it for Kaudi. Do you realize our politicians even today and back then were so corrupt, they would not take care of Nepalese concerns in foreign countries. This is what it's showing. Go ahead. That has been condemned. What is condemned? The government declared that this is not suitable for living. Oh God. She was living in a building which government had declared that this building is not suitable to live. See, this was an embassy building by the government, but that lay outside its legal jurisdiction to serve. Now, why could the government not close the building? Because ambassadors have impunity. There is a separate rule for ambassadors. You can't use normal law for embassies. There is a separate rule. The warped interior smelled of the dereliction. What is warped? Bent or twisted, out of shape. How? Because of heat or damping. Smell of dereliction. What is dereliction? See, something is abandoned dilapidated and it smells too bad. Outside, the window sills were chipped, pieces coming off. The walls were crooked. The tiles on the roof were loose. The building lowered the tone of the entire neighborhood. Oh God, what a satire, what a criticism. This is the power of writing. This is power of writing. She says that our embassy building destroyed the beauty of whole embassy area, because other buildings are very good, but because of our Nepali building, the whole tone of the area was lowered. A carpet of tacky green astroturf. What is tacky? Tacky is like your gel liquid. Covered the rotting front stair. See, this is embassy. And led to a door with a brass block. Now she will make a satire. First she describes this embassy building, and you could see. Please mark it on a copy. This paragraph is very remarkable for descriptive writing. Though this essay is in narrative genre, but within narration, the writer makes beautiful description. This paragraph that we are reading right now is remarkable for vivid description. There are images. Look, images of this green astroturf, image of rotting from the stairs, image of the door with a brass block that announced a bit audaciously. Audaciously means very boldly, daringly. Royal Nepalese Embassy. So what is he doing? This writer, this writer, is criticizing the king's government in those days. King's government in 2040 Bikram Sambat. This era, 1980s, is 2040-45. Royal Nepalese Embassy. She is particularly focusing on the word royal. It was king's embassy. But look the condition. Just as bold was the sign next to it, service entrance at the rear. Now she will further describe this building. Move ahead. My father was, always keep in mind that in this essay you will see two verbs, one in past, one in present. My father was the Royal Nepalese Ambassador, though the job entitled him to live at the embassy's chancery. What is chancery? An office attached to embassy or consulate. To have 3 paid for household stuff. Look, her father was supposed to get a chancery. He was supposed to have 3 paid for his staff and to be ferried around the town in a chauffeur driven Cadillac. He was supposed to get a Cadillac car. But his salary was below poverty level by US standard. By Nepalese standards, of course, it was extravagant. For the first time in our lives, we were poor. Look, she was the ambassador's daughter. She was living inside the embassy. As she says, we were poor. This helps you understand the political context of the time. In Panchayat era, Nepal, maybe because Nepal was poor, it did not fund its embassies properly. And they had this problem. Look, her father was supposed to have a car, he was supposed to have 3 servants, he was supposed to have a separate office, but he had nothing. Move ahead. The paragraph I read right now, if you took care, this is also an example of kairos, because Manjushri is describing the times and situation. Right? Move ahead. But my parents were ambitious. Now she described the mother. My mother, a public health doctor. Look, she is the daughter of a very educated parent. Her father, PhD degree holder. Her mother, a doctor. A public health doctor, barred from working by US visa regulations. Look, she was a doctor. But in America, she could not practice medicine because her visa stopped her from practicing medicine in America. Poured her fierce energies into bettering the embassy. Look, she says, my mother was doing her best to improve the embassy situation. She exterminated the mice. Look, oh God, how shameful. Embassy building had mice. It was infested with mouse. Embassy having mouse. And cockroaches. Even my kitchen and living room don't have cockroaches. Embassy had cockroaches. See, as best as she could, she consulted Better Homes, a book, and Gardens, a magazine, moved about the furniture, and dragged her daughters, my sister and me, to lighting shops in Maryland, to Ethan Allen's in Virginia, to gardening centers in DC. Being poor forces you to be creative. How? What mother would do? There are plants, and picture person. Plants, and mother would install a light here so that the plant has a longitudinal shadow and the dirty carpet is covered and people can't see it. The mother used light to put shadow on the carpet so that people don't really see that the carpet is torn and dirty. I praise this lady. She was doing her best within the limits of financial limits she had. Okay? Being poor forces to be creative. She would say with her characteristic positivity as we lit the plants. See, lit the plants so that the long sharp shadows hit the austere corners of the blue and gold wallpaper living room. What is austere? Smelling stale, damp and stuffy. So these paragraphs I read, they are remarkable for description. Please note in the copy and understand. These paragraphs are remarkable for description. And in this essay, now I should tell you, you will see a beautiful balance of narration and description. This essay balances narration and description. It was untouched by my mother's olive attitude. How was the mother? The mother was a shy, self-conscious child. She talks about herself. A shy, self-conscious child. I spent my first year pinning over the Lhasa Apso and the life we had left in Follow God. As I read this line, I have tears. Why? Look what she's saying. I was a child, I was shy, I was subconscious, and I wanted to get a dog, but my parents did not have money to buy a dog. Pinning over, to long for or yearn for something deeply. I deeply wanted to get a dog as a child, but my parents could not buy a dog for me. And the life we had left in Nepal. I also remember my life in Nepal. Gaining weight on junk food. This is very remarkable. Because when I read this line, you were in my eyes, in my memory. While reading this line at home, I remember you because I see you outside sipping what you call ice cream. You sip 5 ice creams a day. You sip coffee. You sip chocolate. You eat sugar whole day. And you gain weight. And I feel so worried because you people do not care about your physical health. When I was at your age, I would walk to college 30 minutes going, 30 minutes coming. We never used a bus. We walked. We ate and walked. How long do you walk? Maybe you never walk. You never walk because you ride or drive. While reading this line, you were in my mind, right? Gaining weight on junk food. Look, ask a question. What do you get in the canteen? Are you getting fresh food? Are you getting junk food? When you go to eat this afternoon, this break, inquire and think, what are you eating? and watching the Brady Bunch and Mason TV, trying to decode the United States, trying to understand. At school, for convenience's sake, I shortened my name to Manju because people could not pronounce Manjushree. Yet my teachers and classmates called me Manju, or at extreme, Manju. Man just could not rhyme with fun. Do not talk as I explain. As I explain, I expect you to be with pin drop silence. Listen to me, note down. Listen to me, note down. If you talk among yourself, you will distract your attention. My parents wanted only the best for the children. Yes, everybody would like. I wanted best for my child. I paid 800 rupees per month for my son in class 10. You'll be surprised. I paid 1,25,000 for my son in grade 11, 12. I paid 6 lakh for my son in BE. That was the possible thing I could do. I was a teacher. I did my best to educate my children the best possible. Every parent has a dream. Your parents are sending you here not because it's easy, but because they have a dream with you, right? They want to do best for you. So please respect your parents' hard work they are doing to send you here. Okay. They packed my brother off to college on scholarship. Look, they could not pay money. He was an ambassador. He could not pay the fee, so he looked for a scholarship. And a year in, on the guidance of their American friends, got me and my sister admitted on a scholarship into a top-notch school, a pricey Episcopalian. What is that? Episcopalian is a school that is associated to Episcopal Church, a Protestant church. All girls school, like Palmukanya at Pagbajar, right? At school, we're reading, not explaining much because there's not much to explain. At school, the talk was of beach side. See, our friends would talk about beach side. They would talk about ski vacations, summer camp, hayride, and dances, all of which were alien to me. Oh God, see the psychological impact. Imagine you were her, and your friends in classroom, they went to beach side, and they came in class, they showed photograph, and you can't go to beach side. How would you feel? Your friends went to ski vacations, you can't go because your parents can't pay for that. Your friends went to summer camp, you can't go because your parents can't pay for that. Imagine the feeling you have. I have had this feeling, I have had, because my parents were not so rich. And in my class, other person so rich, I have this experience of seeing people enjoying something I can't enjoy. Move ahead. Here I am, and dances. I am still not quite sure what a hayride. Hayride is, you go to a place where they have tractors, they have hay, you climb on the tractors, you sit on the hay, and you move around the area. My whole life was decidedly Nepali. It's like me, at my home in India, we speak Nepali. Outside doors, we speak Bhojpuri. In school, we speak Hindi. My sister and I, dressed in identical silk dresses for parties, played the sitar for guests, then sat by coyly in a model display of pleasing Nepali girl. Have you seen? Or when guests come, parents would call us and they would introduce us to guests, and they would praise us, and they would say, "Can you sing a song for her? Can you dance for him?" Right? Our parents have this habit. If we have guests, they will call the children, right? Move ahead. Yes. Nepali girl. So she says that she grew in America with that Nepali girl at home. We were meant to follow my mother's shining example. What was the example? She was at the time an explosive mix of Western feminist and proper Hindu lady. Because I told you last time that this essay is about cultural identity. This essay is about multicultural influence. This essay is about multicultural influence on the rater's growing. Here is a multicultural influence. Western culture and Hindu culture. She still is, though her Hinduism now borders on iconoclasm. Boyfriends were out of question. And at 5 she said, Tom was my first crush. Right? For my sister and me, we were to marry a hybrid Kulir Khandani Nepali boys upon completing our studies, and only after making these boys wait for us, as she had made my father wait for her, a triple crown badminton champion. Her mother was a triple crown badminton champion. She encouraged us to jog on the streets and play tennis at the public court. But look here, the mother encouraged to play tennis and badminton, but look what she says. But Western girls' forms of independence struck her. What is their independence? Western girls, when they grow, they can kiss somebody, they can hug somebody, they can drink if the age allows, they can have as many boyfriends as they want. Maybe she wanted, but the mother said no. Can you see the sandwich between Western culture and the Nepali culture? So the rater was sandwiched between the culture outside home and culture inside home. Okay. As mere enslavement. So she said that if you follow Western girls, it's like being a slave to that culture. She staunchly disapproved of makeup before marriage. Even I remember when I was young, I clearly heard families telling their girls, no girls would wear any makeup before marriage. When I was a child, I remember. Now you may be wearing, I don't know. But there is a tradition of culture that makeup is only for married people. Drinking before marriage and sex before marriage. And maybe, I'm guessing, she wanted makeup, she wanted drink, she wanted sex. Because she was grown. Her mom said no. Sex between married people can be a beautiful thing. She once announced to us, apparently with good intentions, but mostly she avoided the topic of sex and body in the family. Mother would not talk about body. Have you seen in our culture, in our families, sex is a taboo. Sex is a taboo. Love is a taboo. Pornography is a taboo. We don't talk. Our family will talk. Right? A school friend took pity on me and taught me how to shape my legs. This was a bit disturbing to me. As I was reading this essay, this man disturbed me. In one essay, in one novel, I forgot the title, the major character is Indian, South Indian. And she is in class 6 in American school. It's a novel. In one day, she is wearing frock. And her this one called Shin. The Shin has long hair like boys. And then other girls, ask her, why you have this grown up hair? Because American girls don't have hair. And then she's so disturbed. She started thinking that I'm not a normal girl. You have grown hair because of hormone imbalance, right? So she has this problem. And they taught her to say, and underarm, shaving underarm. Look, her mother wouldn't teach these things. My mother disapproved such practice. This was mere enslavement. When I had my first period, I had no idea what was happening. When my daughter had her first period, she was in class 7. One day she came from school around 4 o'clock in the evening and she entered the toilet. She would not come for 20 minutes. The mother began to call. Where are you? She wouldn't speak. It's 1 hour. She would speak. After 1 hour, with a faint voice, she says, Mama, I'm in the toilet. The mother would go to the toilet door and ask in Nepali, what happened? She was sobbing. Then mother had a guess that she may have had first period. Then my daughter wouldn't open the door, wouldn't let the mother see her. Then my mother, my wife, went to the neighbor's family. There was another girl of my daughter's age. She was in class 7 also. She called her. I forgot her name, Miss Thapa. And she said, something, I forgot the name. She said, come here, please get in the toilet and see what's wrong with her. Then that 7th class child goes to my toilet to my daughter. Then my daughter shows the bleeding to her. And she says, I don't understand what is wrong with me. Then that girl tells my daughter, this is menstruation. She convinces her. Then she comes out after 1.5 hours. And then what happens? My daughter is locked in a room for 15 days because according to tradition, when you have first menstruation, you are not supposed to look at the son, you are not supposed to look at your brother or any male member. We had an empty room. And we told her, live in this room. And she lived in that room for 15 days, 21 days, I forgot. After about 2 weeks, she saw the sun. She never drew the curtains in fear of seeing the sun. She never walked out of the door in the daytime in fear of seeing a male. She would come to the toilet only in the night. Right? Read here. I had no idea what was happening, but afterwards, apparently, on the advice of Dr. Spock, the child care expert, my mother had me sit on my father's lap. I could not understand this sentence. We never did this thing in my family. No, we didn't do. I was disturbed reading this line and had him announce to my grossed out siblings that I had become a woman. Did something this happen in your family with you? Please share. Did your parents, when you are first menstruation, declare you are now woman? When I read this line, I was disturbed. We might as well have been announcing that I had genitals. Look, she's angry. She's angry at this line. She didn't like this idea, making her sit on her father's lap. My mortification. What is mortification? Great embarrassment and shame was complete. We stop here. We have a pause. Take your pen. Take a pen. For 10 minutes, not 5, 10 minutes, you will write as fast as possible. Your time starts now. Your time starts now. Please do not stop writing. Please, I heartily request you to follow my instruction. Write as fast as possible. Write as much as possible. Don't worry about grammar. Don't worry about spelling. Your only purpose is remembering as many things from our discussion as possible. As fast as possible, as much as possible, No worry about grammar, spelling, punctuation, nothing. Your only aim is bring out as many ideas as you can. I repeat, the most effective thing would be write as fast as you can, not slow. I again suggest you try to write very fast. You will feel that ideas come so fluently that your hand is not able to write all the ideas that come. That's a good sign. That's a good sign. I want you to remember so many things that your pen and hand are not able to write them, and you have to increase the speed of your pen. Write as fast as possible. Write as much as possible. No worries about handwriting, no worries about grammar, spelling, nothing. If ideas are not coming, write ideas are not coming, and soon you will see ideas will start coming. Please don't be slow, try to be as fast as possible. Keep writing, keep writing. Write as fast as you can. Write as much as you can. Never worry about language, grammar, spelling, nothing. Keep writing, simply keep writing. As fast as you can. Okay, take a 5-minute break.